Hello, my Chunsters. My name is the Chun. That's Glenn Chun, and it's time to have some fun with Wrestlecast episode 13. Well, today let's just address the big elephant in the room right now. And I'm not talking about the man sitting right next to me. I'm talking about the fact that you're looking at a red circular logo of my name with sort of tears and icebergs coming off of it. You're basically looking at the logo of this and you're probably wondering, why is there no camera? Well, unfortunately, as we were setting up for this stream, trying to get like seats in like a position so that the camera can see both of them, it's my fault. I knocked the camera off its perch and it's a tiny bit, well, completely broken. It's not working, which is my bad. I'm guilty for that, but hopefully I can make up for the lack of a camera with a phenomenal show for you today. Because sitting to my right now is the Russian Dimitri Ivanov. Privyet, comrades, privyet. I am here sitting to Mr. Chan's right, and I'm here to deliver this podcast and answer some fan questions. And of course, Glenn's on. Yes, well, that's it. Dimitri is here to answer questions. Now, also, because I never, ever don't do it, I have plugs. Yes, we're going to Plug City, Dimitri. My friend, we Russians, we love a good plug. So I suggest that you do go to this Plug City and really plug whatever it is that you have to plug. Well, thank you. I will do. And I must say, it's actually kind of helpful having somebody in the studio right next to you, because you can actually just talk to each other. It's actually kind of interesting because you don't really notice the feedback and the delay on these internet connections. It can be awkward. Well, yes, my friend, this is why it's probably a good thing I'm not actually in Moscow right now. Otherwise, we'll have all sorts of delay and it will be bad. I agree. Right, so plugs. Anyway, plugs. Let's do one that I haven't got a huge amount of details for right now, and then we're going to get on to fan questions with Dimitri. So, my first show I'd like to plug for you today, that's right, we're plugging shows, is going to be LEP. LEP has got multiple shows coming up, and I'm going to tell you about every single one of them. I can't tell you a huge amount of details because not that many matches have actually been announced yet, so I'll be teasing those out over the coming weeks. But the first show I want to tell you about is the Exeter Topsham show, which is the next one that LEP are putting on, and it's a significant show for LEP because it is their debut in Exeter. And that's just big business for LEP. Yeah, it's going to be a big show. Not yet fully clear on who's appearing, but I'm sure one man who's been on this show a few times now will be quite happy about this show, because Jason King will be making his hometown return. This is Exeter is where Jason King's mansion is located, and I'm sure he'll be very happy to be defending his LEP Academy Championship, which he's held for something like 251 days now on his home turf. So I'm sure that'll be a good show. But not only this, LEP also has a show in Plymouth. LEP will be debuting at the Stonehouse Creek Leisure Centre in Plymouth on May the 29th. Another landmark show for LEP, expanding its horizons, taking itself out of Torquay to a wider audience, where you can see all your LEP favourites, no doubt. It's going to be a big show again. And also a named show which will be happening at St. Anne's Hall once again in Torquay. This is, I think, June the 21st. It's Maximo's Revenge, where you'll probably be seeing Maximo, based on the name of the show, you'll probably see Maximo trying to take down the pretty boy, Danny Walsh, after there was some... No, it's not Danny Walsh, is it? No, yes, it is. It was Danny Walsh. I'm getting confused because there's two bits of interference from Josh Knott and Danny in two different matches in the last LEP show. I'm just gonna I've got to make sure that I get these two correct, because I believe Danny interfered with Maximo's match and the LEP Academy Championship match, and Josh not interfered. Yeah, and Josh not interfered with the LEP Heavyweight Championship match between Mark Walsh and David Fury. Yes, I think I have that right. Because in Exeter, I believe it's in Exeter, we are going to be so many matches for LEP. I've got to actually really start jotting this stuff down as more details come out for all the shows. But in Exeter, you will be seeing the Exeter-born boy, Josh Knott, the professional, who was on the show 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago actually, because I didn't show last week. But he'll be taking on Dynamite David Fury for #1 contendership. So that'll be an interesting match. I'm looking forward to that match actually. And yeah, that's everything that's happening in the world of LEP. Now, one thing I am going to do, which I haven't done for very much recently, is follow the stream. Because if you do have any questions for Dimitri that you want to submit live on air, I mean, you can submit questions live on air. I know it's spectacular and it's interesting. You can drop a comment on this video that you're watching. If you're watching it on YouTube, the comments actually work now. Or you can email me at glennchum14@gmail.com, and I can read out your questions for Dimitri live and on air. And, well, you'll be pleased to know that there has been an extra question submitted just at the last moment. I'm going to jot this one down. You know what? I don't need to. I've got it on the screen there. So, Mr. Dimitri, yes, I know you sat patiently there. It's now time to answer questions. Why, thank you. I thought you'd never get around to me with all this LEP blogging, yes? No, we will get round to you, don't you worry. Because, well, we have questions. We have questions from fans for you to answer. Now, you're going to have to forgive me because George Bennett, well, let's just put it this way. He asked a lot of questions. He's sort of doing the PJ Jones thing, and he's asked a lot of questions for you. Well, this is okay. These people, they wish to know a lot about me, so go ahead and ask these questions. I mean, I'm going to answer these questions that you ask. Okay, right. Well, the first question is quite nice and simple. What part of Russia are you from? Well, my friend, I was born in the Siberian wilderness. This is not something which is very common. Not many Russians are born in this harsh place. But thanks to earning a lot of money through fighting in Russia, I managed to make enough money, and I now live in Moscow. You know, I live in the capital, Moscow, and actually not far away from Kremlin. Ah, so you actually live in Moscow? Indeed I do, sir. Indeed I do. It is a beautiful city. You know, it is beyond comparison with anything English that you can ever imagine. Okay, I'm gonna have to take your word for that. I've never been to Moscow, so I'm gonna reserve judgment. I'm gonna be the impartial podcaster as always. I advise you to do this. I advise you to do this because I will only tolerate you as long as you be impartial. Okay? Okay. I've been warned. I've been warned, ladies and gentlemen. I've been warned. Okay, so the next question George Bennett asks is also very, very simple. What are the best cities in Russia for pro wrestling? Oh, dear God. This is also a very simple question. Why do you think I live in Moscow? This is silly to me. I live in Moscow because it is good for wrestling. This is the complete capital for wrestling in Russia. So if you want to see great wrestling in Russia, you have to go to this Moscow. That is where you go. If you want to, do not go to any other cities in Russia. If you want to see good wrestling, they do not have it. It is all Moscow. It is to put it in terms that you English or American understand, Moscow is the WrestleMania of Russian wrestling. So that is easy answer. Ah, okay. The WrestleMania of Russian wrestling. That's an interesting way of putting it. So the next question is, and this is kind of political, so you're going to have to forgive me, not a huge amount to do with wrestling. This is okay. This is okay. People will ask what they ask. And true. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. What do you think of Vladimir Putin? Mr. Listen, Vladimir Putin is greatest leader in the whole world. There is nobody on the face of this earth, past or present, or maybe Stalin or Lenin or these other great Russian leaders, maybe they can top Vladimir Putin, but I think not. This man is the true body of manliness and what it means to be Russian. He is a tough man. He could probably beat up entire America, probably by himself. This is Vladimir Putin. I mean, you hear stories in Korean press about this Kim person, and it's all bullshit. But when you read about what Vladimir Putin has done, my friend, it is all real. Absolutely 100% real. It is truly inspiring to have this man as leader of Russia. Truly inspiring. And it just makes me want to just jump up and sing national anthem. I'm not going to do that right now. But it makes me want to. He is a great man. I hope that answered your question, George. Yes, I hope so too. George, you have to understand that this Vladimir Putin is perhaps the greatest man living today, even greater than myself. Okay. You think you're the second greatest man living today? Indeed, I do, sir. As a Russian, spreading the word of what Russia is capable of in other nations, I am the best Russian. It is fact. Okay. That's you. That's for you to say. Now, here's another simple question. Why are you in Cornwall right now? Why are you not in Russia? Well, this is very simple. And in fact, I believe I see that your notes. I can see your notes, Mr. Chan. I am actually here in Cornwall right now because I have to prepare for a show which you're going to blog later, which is the CPW4. You see, I enter Rumble. I'm going to be entering the Rumble and punching many Cornish people in face. I'm going to throw everybody out of top rope. But of course, there is a problem with this. And it is a real problem because this English air, this Cornish air, it is filthy air. And I'm here living in Cornwall right now just because I have to get used to this dirty air. It feels like I am poisoned. It feels like poisoned. It's horrible. I cannot stand it. Honestly, I cannot wait to get back to Russia and actually breathe actual air rather than this filthy. It's not sufficient. I'm not actually very happy about having to perform with air such as this. I might actually wrestle in gas mask at this point so I can have some Russian air. So you're in Cornwall acclimatizing to our conditions. Mr. John, I do not know what this word mean. Acclimatize means getting used to where you are. In that case, yes, that is why I'm here. Okay, George, you're asking some very insightful questions. But now you have stepped into PJ Jones' territory of asking questions because PJ Jones likes to ask questions very similar to this. And Dimitri, I'm going to have to apologize to you in advance. I'm sure you can already read the question. In fact, Mr. Chum, I cannot. Your English handwriting is so bad I cannot read it at all. I cannot. What is this supposed to say? What is this? I'm not even going to attempt to read it because it looks. I cannot even make a word out. It's okay. I'll ask the question. Don't worry. I wrote the question. I can read my handwriting. I'm glad you can. At least that makes one of us. Indeed, sir. What George asked, I'm going to apologize in advance. This is George's question, so when you see him next, you can extract your revenge if you want. Why are Ruskies such pussies? He's gone silent. Mr. Chong and I'm not going to address you. I'm going to address Mr. Bennett. Mr. Bennett, There is one thing you must understand. That is that Russians, or Ruskies, as you say, are not pussies at all. At all. You are being very, very insulting in asking this putrid, блядь, question. It is completely. Listen. Was Ivan Drago a pussy as he killed Apollo Creed in Rocky IV? No, niet. He was not. Was Vladimir Klitschko pussy when he world heavyweight champion? Niet. Absolutely not. Do you think Vladimir Putin is pussy when he shot a machine gun from horseback? Niet. Of course not. This is completely ridiculous. Was Russia pussy as it dominated Nazi Germany in World War II? No. Niet. Again, niet. Ruskies are not pussies. Everyone else is pussy. You have to understand. Everyone else is pussy. That is all. Okay? George, you have to understand something. The look on his face right now, he is pissed. He is angry. This is an angry Russian sitting next to me. I control my anger. It is not good right now to you ask this question. You ask this question, I'm not happy. This is George Bennett. I think he's going to have to find out how unpussy Russia is. Oh dear. Okay, well, how about we ask something else? It's still George Bennett, because again, he did the PJ Jones thing and asked 1,000,001 questions. How do you like being chopped? Well, this is a stupid question. Nobody likes to be chopped. But my Russian does help me resist this chop better than if I was English, for sure. I mean, you chop, it feel like 1,000,000 Russian hornets sting you from inside out and outside out. It is terrible. Russian hornet. Yes, it is like a normal hornet, but just a lot worse because it's Russian. Okay, well, sensible logic, I guess. Now, George Bennett does have one final question, and you'll be happy to know this is the last question from George Bennett, who is a long-time friend of this show, asks a lot of questions of a lot of people. But here's his final question. Since you lot killed the Tsar, that'd be Nicholas II, I understand who the Tsar is. Do not try and educate me on who Tsar is. I know who Tsar is. You're trying to educate me on who Tsar is, please. I am Russian. You're English. I should be telling you who Tsar is. And yes, since we killed him, continue. Okay. How about offering the throne of Russia to one LEP Academy champion, Jason King? And there's a final comment. There's a final comment on that as well, by the way. And it says he would be a better leader than that pussy Vladimir Putin. Okay, well, we've already addressed that Vladimir Putin is a great man. I do not need to go into this again. It'd be a waste of my time, and I do not wish to be here right now. So I'm not good to waste time. Listen, you ask about this offerings of throne to Jason King. Jason, listen, we not offer any throne of Russia to any English sukas at all. This Jason King will never be Tsar of Russia. You know why? Because this Jason King is probably, is that his real name? I doubt it. That's probably what he wants people to call him, right? He's not. This man is probably not suitable to lead a team of two people, which is him and his ego right next to him on a shrimp stall, let alone a great nation like Mother Russia. This is all I say about this. It is, we would never, ever be so stupid as to offer a man like Jason King the throne of Russia, because, I mean, I've seen him once, right? Okay? I was at LEB Academy Show 7, right? And I saw this Jason King in action. He eliminated himself from Rumble. He eliminated himself. Why would we want a man like this as leader of Russia? I wouldn't, you know what? I do not like England. Okay, I do not like this country. I'm not Shlashlevi to be here. You understand? This means not happy to be here. I would not make Jason king of England, let alone Mother Russia. Okay, this man is completely unsuitable for leadership. That is what I have to say about this. Okay, well, George, you need to. I think that's a definitive answer. There is Jason King is never going to be the Tsar of Russia. Okay, I don't think that's ever going to happen. And now we get to move on to somebody else who's going to ask some questions. This question comes from Mr. Briam Forbes, who asks, what are your opinions on a Captain Bobcat who's been around here for quite some time? Oh my god. I tell you what, it is quite interesting to me. I've never seen this Captain Bobcat. I never see him. Where is he? You know what I think? Do not interrupt. Do not interrupt. You know what I think is that as soon as Dimitri appear on the Southwest English wrestling scene, Captain Bobcat is nowhere to be seen. This tells me that this Captain Bobcat is scared of Dimitri Ivanov. This is my opinion on Bobcat. Is he's a little scared child, afraid to cross path with a real life Russian. This is what I say about him. Completely irrelevant individual. Okay, well that's harsh. Sorry, Brian, but Dimitri is not impressed with Captain Bobcat. Now, I mentioned that we had 2 questions submitted live as this show was going. That is on the Facebook post advertising this whole thing. And a man who I am hoping we will get to see on the podcast at some point has asked Mr. Russian here a question. Okay, Danny, I'm going to ask this with no shame from Mr. Pretty Boy himself, Danny Walsh, head of LEP. Has Dimitri ever had sex with a Russian bear? Has Dimitri ever had sex with Russian bear? Mr. Danny, Mr. Pretty Boy, Mr. Pretty Guy, Danny Walsh, listen. Danny Walsh, listen to this. I make Russian bears my beach. You understand? I literally do not take any mercy on these bears. You know, I pound them into ground and then I make them my sex toy. You understand? A big, furry, grizzly sex toy. I do not get mauled by these bears. I fuck them. So yes, I have had sex with Russian bear. It is just not in a sexual way. I do not take many pleasure, as you might say, from this. No. This is completely to show my Dmitry Ivanov's dominance over the Russian world. I can do what I want with it. You know, if I were to go to this Africa, this continent, I would make lion my beach. You understand? If I went to Australia, I would make the saltwater crocodile. I make it take it from the behind. Understand? I'm sure America likes this alligator, right? I tell you what, I will make that alligator knock all of his teeth out to give me a blowjob. You understand? This show's gone sorted all of a sudden. Sick question, but Mr. Danny Walsh, you are a sick man to ask this, but you understand that the Russians make nature its beach wherever it go. So yes, the question is yes, I have, just because I can. Okay, so just because he can. Okay, now this next question comes to us from Jason King, a man who you've already rubbished, Dimitri. And he asks, can you get him any cheap vodka because he makes good dollar selling that on? Well, my friend, there is great profits in vodka trade. Absolutely, this is greatest alcohol in history of Earth. You've got to love this. This is drinks. These the Black Russians, the White Russians drinks are very, very tasty. Now, as for can I get him any cheap vodka? Listen. Of course I can. I'm rather Russian. I can make my own vodka if I want to. I make my vodka. But what this Jason has to understand is there is no way in hell, as Vince McMahon's songs say, he has no chance in hell of ever avoiding liver damage if you drink Russian vodka. Because you have to understand that the vodka that you buy here is like water. It is god-awful. God-awful. I could not get drunk if I drank an entire country's worth of this. You understand? So for Jason to ask me this question, of course the answer is yes, but I wouldn't, just because I'm not want to be responsible for scum murder. You understand? This Jason King is nothing to me. I mean, even if he could take it, I wouldn't get it to him, because I just believe that this man. Maybe, you know what? Maybe I'd be nice. Maybe I'd be a nice Russian once, just maybe this once, and I will get him some Russian vodka for that day when Dimitri Ivanov takes away his LAP Academy Championship. Perhaps I do this, and then I get him some Russian vodka to down his sorrow in one drop. That is all I have to say to that. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is the end of fan questions. Jason King, I don't think you're going to be getting any cheap vodka from Dimitri soon. I'm just refreshing all the streams, just in case anything has been submitted and I haven't seen it. Because I don't want to miss anything. I don't want to miss anything if there is something there. No, I haven't. Well, that's quite opportune. Now, before I ask a few questions on my own, Dimitri, I hope you won't object to me plugging another show. Absolutely not. Go ahead. Like I say, we Russians will appreciate a good plug. Well, thank you. Okay, so today we're also going to be looking at CPW4, which Dimitri has already spoken to you a little bit about. A few of the matches have been announced so far. I know well, let's just talk about who's going to be on this show. The villain, Marty Scurll, is going to be on this show. And he is facing Dirty Dick Riley of the Magnums. That's going to be an interesting encounter. Very interesting encounter, in fact. One of the sleaziest men in the entire world versus the villain. I'm looking forward to seeing that. It's going to be interesting. You also have the CPW trophy match, which will see the Ultimate Rule Breaker. I'm struggling to get my words out today. I really am. The UK Dominator will be defending that trophy against Dancing Daddy Bainsley. That's going to be an interesting match because, of course, at the last show, the UK Dominator took the title away from Dancing Daddy Bainsley with given an assist because it happened. I know UK Dominator on the show stated that he did not need the help. He got it anyway from Jason King, but there was an assist given in that match. So it'll be very interesting to see if this match goes without any interference, what's going to happen. Okay, now we also have a Fatal 4-Way match between Maximo Jr., Josh Knott, Jason King, and of the Firm, Vincent Mad Dog Andrews. These four guys are going to be facing off for an opportunity, I believe, to go for the CPW Trophy Championship. So that's going to be an interesting match. It's going to be very, very interesting. Four very different people clashing in that match. So, yeah, you're looking at a very, very interesting encounter. Of course, the continuation of the rivalry between Marvelous Mark and Pretty Boy Danny, Walsh brothers, they're going to collide once again. And if their encounters so far have been anything to go off, this is going to be epic. It's just going to be epic. I don't even know how many of these matches have actually been announced. I think I've got a bit of an exclusive here. But you also have the winner, PJ Jones versus Filthy Chris Walker. That's going to be phenomenal. And of course, you have the Rumble match featuring my guest this evening, Dimitri Ivanov. And he'll be facing a whole host of trainees from CPW Bootcamp and stars of LEP. A few established guys, a few guys who you all know. El Diablo Loco. Adira's going to be in that one. You've got the Ultimate JP JP's going to be in there. Jamie Pearn, he's going to be in there. And a man who I hope to have on the show sometime soon. Yeah, you're looking at a whole load of guys from the CPW boot camps, which I've been promoting on the show before, and that's going to be just a knockdown, drag out fist fight. And well, Dimitri has a spoiler on this match for you. Indeed I do. I'm glad you all cut to me here. Spoiler alert: I am Russian. Is that it? That is it. Okay. Spoiler alert: Dimitri's Russian. Make of that what you will. But yes, CPW 4 is shaping up to be one hell of a show, and I suggest that you get yourself to that one, and that is May 14th at the Penrice Academy in St. Austell. May 14th, Penrice Academy, St. Austell in Cornwall. That's going to be an awesome show that I advise you go and see. If nothing else, just to see my guest this evening, Dimitri Ivanov in action, doing what Russians do best, beating everybody up. Yeah, that's what I want to say. Now, Dimitri, I do have a few questions of my own for you, if that's okay. This is quite all right, Mr. Chan. I appreciate these questions. I wish to have more. Okay, I will ask more. I like some questions that reveal a bit more about the man himself. Okay, we've had a few of these types of questions from George Bennett earlier, but my questions are a little bit more wrestling focused. So my first question for you is, how did you first become interested in pro wrestling? Well, this is a very, very good question. Very, very good question. Now, my personal hero in wrestling is this great Russian man, Nikolai Volkov. You may remember him. He is absolute legend up there with the Hulk Hogan's and the Undertakers of WWE. This man, Nikolai Volkov, was absolutely brilliant. I mean, I a great fan of his work from way back when, and it made me proud to be Russian seeing this man. It really did. He carried himself with such dignity in this ring, such technique, such precision with his moves. Very, very, just brilliant, as you would say. Honestly, he make this Nikolai Volkov make Bret Hart look like a complete rookie. You understand? Like he just started, This is how good he was, and I must admit, I cried tears of joy when I see him return at the WrestleMania 17 Gimmick Battle Royal. So this Nikolai Volkov, just seeing this man and seeing how great he make Russia be in wrestling, and this make me interested. Okay, so how did you then get started in wrestling? Well, see, this happened at a very early age. For me, as I remember it like yesterday. I was obviously in Siberian wilderness. I live around this area for quite a few times. I have log cabins and stuff like this. And obviously, in this unforgiving environment, you'll meet many wild animals. And of course, as proper Russian, I have to just wrestle these into submission and just beat these animals down. And I start by wrestling bears, wolves, Siberian husky, dogs, all sorts of dangerous wildlife. And then I realized, I think to myself, Dimitri, you could probably make a little bit of money doing this, right? It's very similar to what your Joker have in this Batman movie. If you're good at something, you'll never do it for free. I think this to myself, and I think I'm good at wrestling. I can beat these bears like they're nothing. So I moved to Moscow, where it's the wrestling capital, as I already tell you earlier, of Russia. And I started wrestling there, and I started really perfecting craft. I started really emulating Nikolai Volkov in extraordinary ways. And that is how it all got started for me. Then I came over here to this England, make my debut in this LEP7 against Dira, and then the Rumble there, and then I now of course many English. Let me tell you, I'm my phone goes constantly, all the time. I've turned it off for this podcast. I hope you appreciate this. I'm probably missing like 100 calls asking me to be booked, and that is what we do. Okay, we have many bookings now, and I have to turn some down because I wish to wrestle in Russia. But that is the story of Dimitri in wrestling. That's quite a long story actually. So I suppose the question is, who's the favorite guy you've ever faced so far? Who's your favorite opponent so far in your career? Well, Mr. Chon, it is not that anybody that you would have ever have heard of course, because he's too famous to be known here in England. You would not know him. He is Ivanich Romanenkov. Great Russian man, very great Russian man. He beat many people, and then I came along and I beat him. This is my personal career highlight. He's so technical. You'll see. So you have to identify alternative strategy to beat this man. You cannot, at any point, you have to really come up with alternative strategy at all time to beat this man. And this is my personal career highlight, is beating him. Well, that's quite good. So Ivanich Romanenkov, that is his name, yes. I suggest he's so famous that he completely transcends reality, if you know what I mean. Okay. So he's your favorite. Now, Dimitri, I do have to ask you something about your match, about your Rumble, which is coming up here in Cornwall. Okay? And it's this. Okay, so I saw this the other day. I was doing some research on Dimitri Ivanov. I needed to know more. And I came across something that Cornish Pro Wrestling have put up. Okay? And it's quite derogatory, insulting or horrible, in words you might understand, towards Cornish people, because you said this: all the Cornish are lazy, layabout benefit takers that do nothing but moan when hard-working Russians like you come and take the jobs that they cannot be bothered to do, and that you are a lot better at doing as well, and that you hate pasties. Apparently, they couldn't understand the rest of what you said. Or maybe they just said that, but it isn't suitable to be said, maybe, based on the start of that conversation. So lazy, layabout, benefit claimers. I mean, what do you say to that? I say is that, listen, this is completely true. I do not say this. Listen. This is very important that you understand. Very important that you understand. I do not say this because it is nice to say it. I do not say this because I just like insulting people, okay? I say this because it is true. Okay, this is not a nice little cushy chocolate-coated lies. This is truth. Hard, cold reality. This is the reality of Cornwall. It is a terrible place. It attracts the most terrible people. Literally, let me put this this way, all right? Now imagine that you have big pit of feces. Understand this? You have big pit of feces. This is England, okay? Now, Cornwall is the worst of this. Cornwall is the worst of that, okay? It is like the worst of the worst. It is like There are not even words to explain to you just how bad a place Cornwall is. I would probably literally rather be in hell than in Cornwall. You understand? In fact, perhaps Cornwall is hell. Perhaps that's what this place is. You know, you just do not wish to be here. You seem like an alright man, Mr. Chan. I believe that you should really move out of this horrible place. I suggest that you do this because you do not experience anything good here. And as for this pasties that they like to go on and on and on about, it is not that tasty. Not really. Not that tasty. I do not like this food. I mean, personally, I like to just eat raw turnips more than this pasty. It's, good God. It must be like ridiculously unhealthy because it's pastry, it is fattening, it is disgusting, it is. And the whole point is that you can hold it in your hand. Big deal! Get fork! Get fork, you lazy bitch! This is what I mean about Cornwall. When I say they're lazy, layabout benefits people, they just they need to hold their food in their hand because they can't be bothered to get a fork, step it, and eat it like that. It is just animal way of eating. And that is why I do not like pasty, because they eat like animals. So when I say this about Cornwall, you have to understand this comes from a place of just telling the truth. Because you see, we Russians are so much better than the rest of the world at telling truth. Okay, so, well, there you go. That's my question. It comes from the place of telling truth. Now, Dimitri, I was in the crowd for LEP Academy 7. I saw that show. I was watching a load of guys there. And I saw you wrestling Adira. Okay? Now, you lost that match. And you claim that Russians are incredibly good at fighting. The evidence, what I'm going to say here, Dimitri, is that the evidence doesn't stack up. You say that you're incredibly good at fighting, and yet you lost to Adira. I mean, what do you have to say about that? And no disrespect to Adira, this is a Russian saying he can beat bears. Okay, Dimitri, what do you have to say to that? Well, Mr. Chance, this is very, very easy, very, very easy. You'll say you watched this match, yes? You said you watched this. I did indeed. Now tell me, if this is true or not. I already know this answer. It's rhetorical, but I want you to answer anyway. Did I or did I not have her on my shoulders about to finish this Adira off? Well, you had her on your shoulders, but I don't know if you were going to finish her off or not. I guess that remains to be seen. No. I was about to unleash a maneuver so devastating that to people outside of Russia it would probably be fatal. I was about to finish her off. And then I realized to myself, Dimitri, Russian men are so much better gentlemen than the English. If I were to finish Adira off right there, bang, 1, 2, 3. If I were to do this, it would make me terrible man. Terrible man. This is not what you do to a lady. You do not break lady's skull on your knee. This is not what you do. You do not throw her off your shoulders and pin her. This is not gentleman. And we Russians are gentlemen, better gentlemen than any English person you ever see. And so I have crisis of conscience. I say to myself, I cannot be good Russian by doing this to this woman. And then, of course, I let her win. If I wanted to, she would lose. That simple. She would have lost like that. That is what I have to say. You say I lose, but really it is not victory. Or I just threw the match because it was the gentleman thing to do, and I was demonstrating to all you English in that audience, including yourself, that Russian people are better gentlemen than English. Okay, well, that's certainly one way of looking at it. I guess you kind of proved that. Okay, so there is that. Okay. Well, I mean, we are running out of time here. Now, I know this podcast sometimes gets criticized going on too long, and I know you want to get out of here pretty soon, so we're going to wrap this up now. We're going to wrap this up. So, question is, if the people watching this podcast don't live in Russia and don't want to travel to Russia to see you wrestle, where can they see you wrestle around here? Well, this is quite simple. I wrestle at LAP7. I actually have pretty decent times considering it's English, and because I'm going to wrestle in England more often now, just to continue Nikolai Volkov's great work, I will be wrestling with LAP again, I believe. I haven't been called yet, but I do believe it is a matter of time that I get that call. You can also see me at CPW, May 14th, at the Spenrice Academy in St. Austell. You can see, more like St. Awful, if you ask me. But I will be there wrestling in this Rumble, and rest assured, I just based on the fact that I'm Russian, there is continued interest from Terry Speller or CPW, and I believe I'll be wrestling there further. So for now, in England, it would be LAP, CPWs. This is where you can see me wrestling. Well, thank you. One last question, Dimitri, before we let you go. You've answered a lot of questions here. Where can we find you on the internet? Well, my friends, this is quite simple. There is just one place where you'll go to find out all things Dimitri, where you can find out the matches I am in, where you can find out what I think about certain things. I'm going to start doing video series pretty soon about why Russia is better than the rest of the world. And this is all on my Facebook page. I have a Facebook page. I do this. And it is Dimitri Ivanov. The Facebook page is it. It is, I'm sure, I know a little bit about your podcast. I believe you put descriptions, you put link in there. I do indeed, and I will be. Thank you. So that's where we can find Dimitri Ivanov at Dimitri Ivanov on Facebook, on his like page. That's what I'm currently looking at right now, where I read the quote from CPW. As for me, if you want to find out more about Glenn Chun, you can go to Glenn Chun, the like page on Facebook. You can also go to Twitter at Glenn_Chun. And that's where you can find out what I'm doing as well. And if none of that appeals to you, you can always just tune in to this podcast. You can just tune into this YouTube channel and see everything that I do on the internet. Most of it goes on YouTube anyway. So if you want to find me, that's where you do it. Right now, we're about at the 50-minute mark. That sounds like a good time to end it. So I'm going to say thank you very much for watching, everybody who's watched. Thank you to Danny, George, Briam, Jason for your questions for Dimitri. Also, big thank you to Dimitri for coming here. I know you hate coming here to Cornwall, so it's been a huge honor to have you here. Big thank you. That is okay, Mr. John. I always believe that this podcast would be a great way to promote what I do here, and I want people to see what I do. So, in reality, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm glad you invited me on so I can spread the word of what I do. Oh, no, not a problem. It's a pleasure to have you here, and thank you for actually being here in the studio. It's a genuinely new experience to have you right here. Well, of course, I'm in Cornwall anyway, so I figure why not? Why not? This is it. Well, exactly. Why not? It has been a genuine pleasure, despite the hatred for Cornwall. Maybe one day I'll just have to take you up on your advice and move to Russia myself. But until that day, for me, thank you for watching, everybody. I will see you all later and on the next edition of Wrestlecast. I haven't fully decided on who the guest for that is going to be, but like I say, if you follow Glenn Chun on Facebook, you should find out. or Dimitri wants another message. Yes, my friends, this is my comrades. This is what I like to say. I like to say das Vidania and have a good day. I think that's quite a good note to end on. Stay safe, people.